Joseph Cannizzaro, a renowned entrepreneur in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, appeared to have achieved it all: a successful career, thriving businesses, and a loving family. However, on January 18, 2013, his promising future was brutally cut short when two armed men invaded his home, leading to a crime that would send shockwaves through Lansdale for years to come. The mystery surrounding his case persisted until a breakthrough finally brought long-awaited answers. This is a story of ambition, betrayal, and the unyielding pursuit of justice for a life tragically taken too soon. Joseph Cannizzaro's roots were deeply entrenched in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, where he spent a significant portion of his early life. From an early age, Joseph Cannizzaro demonstrated a strong work ethic, diligently building a prosperous career within his community. His unwavering drive and determination made him a well-known figure in Lansdale, particularly as he became increasingly involved in various local business ventures. Joseph's entrepreneurial flair was showcased when he co-founded Finn McCool's Tavern in Ambler, Pennsylvania, a vibrant gathering place that swiftly became an integral part of the community. This successful endeavor marked the beginning of Joseph's expanding business endeavors, as he subsequently ventured into contracting, establishing multiple companies that cemented his reputation as a shrewd and astute businessman. As his success grew, Joseph embraced new opportunities, strategically acquiring properties and taking on mortgages to diversify his portfolio and secure his future financially. The acquisition of a Lansdale auto garage further expanded Joseph's portfolio, adding another valuable asset to his burgeoning collection. His diverse ventures established him as a prominent figure, respected not only for his business prowess, but also for his commitment to the local community. Despite his numerous responsibilities, Joseph successfully created a life of relative comfort, skillfully balancing his various ventures with the demands of property ownership and business management. However, beneath the surface, the pressures of his growing empire began to intensify. As Joseph's career continued to flourish, so did the demands on his time and energy, bringing increased stress and pressure. Yet, Joseph remained a resilient and determined individual, undaunted by the challenges that came with his success. Joseph's life was shattered on January 18, 2013, when a frantic 911 call was placed from a residence on Swartley Road in Hilltown Township. The harrowing call, though fleeting, triggered a sense of urgency among dispatchers. Despite their valiant efforts, the connection was abruptly severed, leaving an unsettling silence in its wake. Within moments, a nearby resident phoned in, her voice quivering with dread, to report a ghastly incident. Two armed assailants had stormed her home, held her family captive, and abducted her fiancé, Joseph Cannizzaro. The intruders also made off with his pickup truck and other precious belongings. The gravity of the situation prompted a swift and decisive response from the police, who rushed to the scene with a mix of trepidation and hope. Upon arrival, they launched a thorough search of the premises, scouring every inch for any indication of Joseph's whereabouts or the perpetrators. Their search ultimately led them to the garage, where they stumbled upon a horrific sight. There, they found Joseph's lifeless body, his hands mercilessly restrained with zip ties. The scene was a testament to unimaginable brutality, with unmistakable signs of a ferocious struggle. The officers instinctively knew that this was no ordinary theft. It was a premeditated and ruthless act of murder. As investigators meticulously examined the evidence, a chilling picture of Joseph's last moments began to unfold. The autopsy report later confirmed the officers' worst suspicions. Joseph had succumbed to multiple stab wounds, and his death was formally classified as a homicide. However, this marked only the beginning of the investigation. Law enforcement officials worked around the clock to identify the perpetrators and unravel the motive behind such a brutal act. Detectives promptly interviewed Joseph's fiancée, who recounted the harrowing events of that fateful morning. She described how two armed intruders burst into their home, confronting her and Joseph in their bedroom and binding their hands and legs with zip ties. When Joseph's 12-year-old son entered the room, one of the assailants held a knife to his throat and similarly restrained him with zip ties. Joseph's eldest son was fortunate to be at school during the brutal attack, spared from witnessing the horror that unfolded at home. One intruder forced Joseph to move through the house, while the other remained with his fiancée and young son, holding them hostage in a terrifying ordeal. The situation took a darker turn when the second gunman dragged her into a separate room, subjecting her to a vicious and traumatic assault. The assailants then plundered the residence, making off with valuables, firearms, and cash before fleeing the scene. After the men departed, she mustered the strength to free herself and the boy, escaping to a neighbor's house to call 911 and report the heinous crime. As the investigation progressed, crucial evidence emerged, revealing a complex web of circumstances surrounding Joseph's murder. In the years leading up to his death, Joseph had accumulated substantial debts, including sizable sums owed to various casinos, and had filed for bankruptcy, citing $10 million in debt. He had also previously settled 2 federal lawsuits related to bad checks, further complicating the financial motivations behind his murder. Security cameras captured the suspects unloading items from Joseph's stolen pickup truck behind a Friendly's restaurant in Quakertown. Later, police found the abandoned truck with a pair of gardening gloves nearby, which were sent to the Federal Bureau of Investigation for examination. The gloves revealed DNA from an unidentified man, matching the DNA profile obtained from the assault examination of Joseph's fiancée. Investigators also discovered 11 mobile phones in the victim's home, 8 of which were operational. Additionally, they found a black facial mask in the stolen truck. A DNA analysis in 2020 linked the mask to Thomas Delgado, whose phone records showed multiple communications with Joseph in 2011, 2 years before the home invasion. However, Joseph's fiancée stated she was unfamiliar with Delgado, and no one in their household owned a mask like the one found. Thomas Delgado was taken into custody and charged with numerous offenses, including murder, assault, and kidnapping, with bail denied. As investigators continue to unravel the details of this heinous crime, Delgado remains in custody. His arrest marks a significant milestone in the Joseph Cannizzaro case, bringing a measure of justice to a community and family forever changed by his tragic death. Though the wounds of that fateful day will persist, the pursuit of justice presses on as Delgado faces multiple charges. Meanwhile, the search for the second suspect continues, ensuring that all parties responsible are held accountable. In July 1977, the body of an unknown person was found in Yakima, Washington. A hardware store employee alerted authorities after detecting a strong smell emanating from a van parked in a nearby lot. Responding officers from the Yakima Police Department discovered the remains of a person concealed within the abandoned vehicle. An autopsy was conducted 2 days later, revealing the deceased to be a young woman aged 18 to 25, measuring approximately 5 feet 8 inches tall in height and weighing around 130 pounds. The examination also disclosed multiple injuries sustained by the victim. The autopsy ultimately determined that strangulation was the cause of death, and the manner of death was deemed a homicide. The victim had suffered 3 blows to the head with a heavy instrument, been mutilated, and was left in a face-down position on her hands and knees in the van's rear. She was only partially clothed, wearing light-colored socks with a green sweater draped over her upper torso. Additional clothing items discovered near the body included a yellow handmade dress, white underwear bearing the inscription Scott Lily-2H, blue corduroy jeans from Farah, and a blue shirt. Efforts to identify the woman through dental records and Federal Bureau of Investigation fingerprint databases proved futile. A dental profile was created from the remains and compared to several missing persons cases from various jurisdictions nationwide, but no matching records were found. A multitude of individuals were questioned, and numerous tips regarding the woman's identity were received from across the nation. However, none of these leads yielded a positive identification for the woman or her assailant. The woman, who came to be known as Yakama Jane Doe, was laid to rest in a Washington cemetery. In 2004, leveraging advancements in forensic technology, renewed efforts to identify the woman were undertaken at the behest of the Yakima Police Department. The Yakima County Coroner's Office exhumed the remains of the unidentified woman, which were then transferred to the King County Medical Examiner's Office for additional forensic analysis. Subsequently, the remains were submitted to the University of North Texas for the creation of a short tandem repeat DNA profile. In 2005, the short tandem repeat profile was uploaded to the Combined DNA Index system, but unfortunately, no matching profiles were discovered. Despite the tireless efforts of law enforcement, the identity of Yakama Jane Doe remained shrouded in mystery. In April 2016, the case details were entered into the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, a move aimed at potentially uncovering new leads. In 2022, the Yakima Police Department submitted forensic evidence to Othram, a cutting-edge DNA testing facility, in the hopes that advanced genetic analysis could finally shed light on Yakama Jane Doe's identity. Othram's scientists employed forensic-grade genome sequencing to construct a comprehensive genealogical profile for the victim. This profile was then utilized by Othram's in-house forensic genetic genealogy team to conduct exhaustive genealogical research, yielding novel investigative leads for law enforcement to pursue. A subsequent investigation was conducted utilizing the newly obtained leads. Investigators successfully identified potential relatives of the woman, and following numerous interviews and conversations, a reference DNA sample was obtained from a potential relative and compared to the DNA profile of the woman. This comparison definitively confirmed the identity of Yakama Jane Doe as Verita Joni Gates, born on October 21, 1952. If alive today, Joni would be 71 years old. Her family characterized Joni as a free-spirited individual with a penchant for travel, often thumbing her way between her native Vermont and New York, as well as venturing out to the West Coast. In early July 1977, merely days before her remains were found in Yakima, Joni was confirmed to be receiving medical treatment at a hospital near Chicago. For decades, Joni's family tirelessly sought answers about her disappearance, only to be met with uncertainty. Until now. Joni's immediate family, including her sister and brothers, have finally found closure after a 45-year quest for truth. The identification of their beloved sister has brought solace to their family, healing a wound that had lingered for far too long. Her siblings extend their heartfelt gratitude to all those involved in bringing Joni's identity to light. In a stunning turn of events, a 38-year-old cold case has resurfaced, captivating the attention of both Los Angeles and Northern California. Meline Garcia, a beloved community member, was found brutally beaten and lifeless in a Roseville alley in 1984, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions that have only recently been resolved. Born in California to Spanish immigrant parents, Meline embodied the rich cultural heritage and community spirit of her upbringing. Adored for her warmth and generosity, she spent her formative years in Rocklin and East Sacramento, where she was renowned for her exceptional culinary skills, vibrant gardens, and creative crafts. After marrying Frank, she established a home in East Sacramento, continuing her commitment to her community. In the late 1970s, Meline relocated to South Placer, maintaining her quiet yet fulfilling life. Tragically, her life was cut short at the age of 69. On September 26, 1984, Medeline's lifeless body was discovered in an alleyway on the 300 block of Atlantic Street, partially concealed behind the West House Hotel and Saloon. A witness stumbled upon her body while she was on her routine early morning tricycle ride, collecting cans. The scene was one of unimaginable brutality, with Medeline's dentures dislodged from the ferocity of the assault. The police were met with a grim discovery, as her body bore signs of a violent assault. In the aftermath of Medeline's tragic death, the Roseville Police Department launched an exhaustive investigation, canvassing the area, interviewing residents, and pursuing every potential lead. Detectives James Fujitani and evidence technician Gary meticulously processed the crime scene, but progress was sluggish. The investigation was temporarily diverted when a double homicide emerged, and although Fujitani secured convictions in those cases, Medeline's case remained stagnant. As years elapsed, the case grew increasingly cold, and new detectives, including Kurt Leatherman and Mary Green, assumed responsibility. Leatherman made notable headway by leveraging advancements in forensic technology and eliminating numerous suspects. Despite these renewed efforts, Medeline's case remained unsolved, and the prospect of resolution seemed increasingly remote. However, a breakthrough emerged decades later, facilitated by advancements in DNA technology and investigative techniques. In 2024, investigators employed familial DNA testing, yielding a match that linked Richard Moore, an individual with a history of arson near the crime scene, to the unsolved case. This development prompted an intensified effort to locate Moore, who had since relocated to Los Angeles. As the case was reactivated, the persistence of investigators and technological advancements culminated in Moore's arrest on June 27, 2024. Moore was transferred back to Placer County, where he confronted accusations related to the murder of Meline Garcia, as well as abduction and battery. Residents who lived nearby Moore in a serene Echo Park neighborhood expressed astonishment over the allegations, with many describing the man as affable and obliging. One resident remarked, "It has been a stunning revelation to discover that something so astonishing is occurring with someone we lived close to. He was always quite amiable. I cycled past him once, and he offered to help me inflate my tires." Moore's inaugural court appearance on July 8, 2024, marked the commencement of the judicial proceedings. Moore, who entered a plea of innocence, was assigned a public defender. As the case progressed through the legal system, his arraignment paved the way for a trial that would evaluate the robustness of the evidence and the efficacy of the novel forensic techniques employed to solve the case. As the legal proceedings continued, Medeline's relatives and the Roseville community awaited a conclusion. Medeline's eldest granddaughter described Moore's arrest as poignant. She stated, "It is a poignant moment. I can only hope my grandchildren recall me the way I remember her." The apprehension not only drew renewed attention to Medeline's case, but also provided a glimmer of finality after decades of uncertainty and sorrow. Dennis Leroy Wood, a 71-year-old individual with a reputation for his mild disposition and preference for isolation, resided peacefully in Moore Park, California. His days were spent in calmness, adhering to a straightforward routine that brought solace in his advanced years. However, on April 16, 2004, his life was transformed in an unforeseen manner. What commenced as an ordinary day would soon intensify into a distressing incident. Deputies from the Ventura County Sheriff's Office were dispatched to his residence on the 12,500 block of Mountain Trail Street for a routine welfare check, prompted by apprehensions from neighbors who had not seen or heard from Dennis in several days. The deputies approached the residence, unaware that they were about to uncover a ghastly scene. Upon arriving at the property, an unsettling stillness surrounded the house. The once peaceful and serene home seemed eerily silent, with no signs of life. After receiving no response to their knocks, the deputies decided to enter the residence. What they found inside was far more appalling than they had anticipated. The lifeless body of Dennis lay in the home, deceased from at least one gunshot wound. The elderly occupant, who had always kept to himself, was found deceased. The discovery marked the beginning of a complex inquiry. The Ventura County Sheriff's Office quickly ruled Dennis's demise as a homicide. Who could have committed such a malevolent act against someone as innocent as Dennis? There were no immediate indications of forced trespass, and nothing seemed to be plundered from the residence, deepening the puzzle surrounding Dennis's demise. Was this a random act of ferocity, or was there something more malevolent at play? The probe revealed harrowing particulars about the final moments of his existence. It was ascertained that he had lost his life due to multiple gunshot wounds, with injuries to both his cerebral cortex and torso. Even more disquieting was the fact that Dennis's body had gone undetected for nearly 2 weeks. During that time, his home, once a haven of tranquility, had become the silent witness to a gruesome crime. Investigators interviewed neighbors, friends, and anyone who might have had contact with Dennis in the days leading up to the homicide. They followed every lead, hoping to uncover something that would point them in the direction of the offender. But despite their efforts, the case remained an enigma. The investigators quickly realized that the case was more confusing than they initially thought. There were no clear signs of a break-in, and nothing of significant value appeared to be missing from the home. The absence of an obvious motivation made it difficult for investigators to identify a suspect. With no clear direction, the case began to languish. Over the years, the case of Dennis remained a haunting, unresolved enigma for the Ventura County Sheriff's Office. Investigators would occasionally reevaluate the case, hoping that developments in forensic technology or a fresh perspective might shed new light on the crime. Despite their efforts, the case remained cold, with no significant discoveries. The sheriff's office made a stunning revelation on May 14, 2024, unveiling new proof that purportedly linked Name to Dennis's homicide. This sudden breakthrough brought a glimmer of hope for justice after 20 years of ambiguity. Authorities remained secretive about the evidence, citing the ongoing probe and judicial proceedings. The relationship between Namie and the crime, as well as the nature of the proof, remained obscure, sparking speculation about what had led to this unexpected turning point. One thing was clear: the case had taken a dramatic turn. On the morning of May 14, 2024, Namie was apprehended around 11 a.m. by Ventura County deputies. Namie was promptly transferred to the Ventura County Jail, where he now awaits charges for first-degree homicide, with bail set at $2 million. Namie remained in custody as the judicial process commenced. The apprehension of Namie brought a measure of resolution to the 20-year-old cold case for the loved ones of Dennis Leroy Wood. The news was bittersweet, a mix of relief that someone had finally been held accountable, and sorrow for the years of anguish and worries they had experienced.